Hello, this will be my next YouTube video. Uh, I am reading this, but I did write it. I just wanted you to listen to it and see what you thought. I know it's kind of less creative when I don't just say it from my heart, but I guess I was saying it when I wrote it, so here it is. So in other words, countries, federal governments, would have whatever necessary monies necessary to facilitate all necessary public works, allocating exactly what's necessary, financially speaking, to its state governments, which in turn would have allocated what was necessary, which in turn would have, let me start over so you get this. So in other words, countries' federal governments would have whatever necessary monies necessary to facilitate all necessary public works, allocating exactly what's necessary, financially speaking, to its state government, which in turn would have allocated what was necessary, monetarily speaking, to their particular local governments. Federal country governments would be overseer to state projects necessary, and state would be overseer to local government projects. All in all, for the peoples of the country's sake, including the people within the government, all public works would be paid for without levying taxes on the private sector, and of course with the private sector's consent also, as well as all. The fairness is the same as if a government had levied a tax or had levied taxes, yet there would be no shortcoming, financially speaking, to afford all necessary public works, and for that matter, maybe even some wanted public works, like does it hurt the economy or each other if they, in addition to all absolute necessary public works, added to the economy by buying plants and flowers for public byways and highways? Or would it hurt someone's feelings if they were now able to hire managers and lay workers to pick up your cigarette butts from the litter bugs, and maybe an extra police officer for their own ability to do their job and be more successful and safer in protecting the citizens, as well as possibly busting those litter buggers? It would be nice to have a disciplined armed or unarmed military to handle any emergencies and to help in overall law enforcement. Or if you want to be like the old ways, a heavily armed force that's paid for, that builds the most capably ready, most destructive force possible with the most deadly equipment and weapons, while allowing the other countries to do the same type financial arrangement to build the fastest and best, most destructive equipment and weapons, till it's staged out as a horrific war, millions killed, and a numbers game of sheer battle or of killed or be killed. Or we could take the approach of each country's being able to adapt to a financial system such as this, but not fight for resources to build these type things like weapons, but to build something else. For example, cars and passenger trains, cars, ships, what have you. Instead of building in a race weapons, you could build friendships and cooperation with each other instead. Country to country, people to people. Each country's overall force or armed force would be equipped with what's feasible to secure an area or overcome a riot, or and also to quite possibly take on crime and criminals, such as that may be up and running, organized, or in a gang. The nice thing for the good of each country is this would be paid for, and there would be enough to afford what it takes in manpower, what have you, to overcome these problems. Parks, roads, dams, bridges could be fixed up better, only spawning good production for the private sector, which means more sales and more people being hired. If taxes were replaced with the only allowed production of money, the statement of legal tender or the printing of it, just so long as it is good currency at the private banks, we would go with the current currency of your particular country, which would be indexed dollar for dollar, or should I say dollar for pound, or pound for mark, or mark for yen, etc. Most purchases between countries would be by check or card anyway, through the private banks working with central banks, working with world banks. Certainly a nation's government should buy its necessary supplies first priority made in their own country, but could certainly buy or procure from other countries. The only thing necessary for this to work is for the governments not to hoard or overconsume resources, but would have to adjust to world needs or other countries' needs too. But if in the natural course of governments being fair and buying only necessary or good project materials for procurement and no resources has become not replenished or scarce, then by all means to your intent. But if in the course of things resources are scarce, then governments would have to be fair and allocate them. If in disagreement, you would have to take it to the arbitrator or to the world court. Governments can supply an income for those unable to work, and also supply an income to retired age, not working anymore citizens. Because money is just money. You don't want too much and you just don't want too little. Because you don't want to steal, and you also don't want to have so much where you feel you're self-sufficient and that you don't need God. Don't forget we're dependent on Him. Also, money was just for a medium of exchange, nothing more, except maybe to make it honest and to reward and encourage work. A fair and equitable income, not too much or not too little, would make it nice and also keep people that can work working and surviving. And by the way, the private sector can of course buy and sell products and services nationwide or internationally with no impeding taxes, tariffs, or regulations, except for any mandated regulations put in law by any or all governments for each area concerned that may be to regulate a scarce resource, or possibly an environmental concern, or possibly regulation to change a direction for the common good of all. Governments would certainly have laws concerning not selling weapons, or girls sexually, slavery of any sort, or quite possibly some recreational drugs that do more harm than good, or controlled substances such as hazardous material or anything that the private sector is doing. That should not be done. Governments would crack down on scammers, schemers, fake businesses, rip-off artists, and of course liars and falsehood, and would crack down on any other crime. Until next time.